Afternoon, everyone. This committee's adjustment committee meeting for March the 25th, 2025 will come to order. Members of the public, staff, and presenters, members of the committee, please be advised that we are broadcasting recording and being available on the internet. This range disclosure is primarily to the general nature thereof. Seeing none, we will go to our planner to announce the purpose of the meeting.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Committee of Adjustment is holding a public hearing in accordance with Section 45 of the Planning Act in order to consider one application today for relief from bylaw 2009-021, being the comprehensive zoning bylaw for the Township of Selwyn. Prescribed notice of public hearing was provided via prepaid first-class mail to all residents within a 60-meter radius of the property subject to the application, as well as by a sign posted on the subject property. The notice was also available on the township's website. The notice circulation complies with the requirements of the Planning Act. If a person or public body would otherwise have the ability to appeal the decision of the Committee of Adjustment of the Township of Selwyn, but does not make oral submissions or at a public meeting or public hearing, or make written submissions to the Committee of Adjustment before the committee gives or refuses to give approval to the application, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision to the Ontario Land Tribunal. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or hearing, or make written submission to the Committee of Adjustment of the Township of Selwyn in respect of the proposed variances before the committee gives or refuses to give approval to the applications, the person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the Ontario Land Tribunal, unless in the opinion of the tribunal there are reasonable grounds to do so. If you wish to be notified of the decision of the Committee of Adjustment, you must make written request to the Secretary Treasurer of the Committee of Adjustment, providing your name and address or email address. So our application today is B04-25. This is for 338 Fife Avenue. The project is for the construction of approximately 85 square foot or 915 square foot new open deck. The variances requested are to reduce the minimum high water setback from 30 meters to 17 meters and to reduce the minimum rear yard setback from 15 meters to 11 meters to an open deck. In this particular instance, there are some fill lands fronting the property not owned by the property owner, so therefore a little bit atypical. We're also doing a rear yard setback adjustment for the deck. As per my report, I do find that the application meets the 4 tests of a minor variance, and I do recommend the application for approval. In terms of comments, we have comments of no concern from the Autonomy Region Conservation Authority, detailing that permits will be required in addition to township permits from WARCA. North of Pine Ridge District School Board has no concern, and County Public Works has no concern. And we did have one neighbor, Anthony Jeffrey, who submitted comments in support of the application. And that is my report.
All right, so it's A04-25.
Yes, did I?
You said B, just
Oh,
clarification.
sorry, A04-25.
Yeah,
Yes.
no worries. So I understand that the applicant is here. Do you have anything you wish to add to Pear's report?
No.
Okay, thank you. And did anyone register in favor or against this application, Madam Deputy Clerk?
We have no one else here for this application virtually. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'll bring it to committee. Are there any questions? Member Black.
Thank you, through Chair. Just a question for Per with respect to the distances. I mean, clearly, Shimon Lake, there was a lot of fill put in shoreline. Your drawing shows that. So the distances are to the property limit, not to the actual shoreline. As it appears today.
Through you, Madam Chair. That's why there's 2 setback provisions. The high water setback provision is to the edge of the fill land, which would be the upper controlled navigation level of the Trent Severn Waterway.
Right.
And the setback to the property limit is the 11 meters.
To the property limit, yeah. So technically, who owns that piece of property?
Federal government, Parks Canada.
Parks Canada, Trent Severn.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Just
You'd have to
for
go
clarification.
if you
Yeah.
want to speak. Is it Mr. Hart?
Yes, hi, it's Paul Hart, the applicant. I just wanted to clarify, we have actually gone through legal processes and have a judge's order. There was the section along the front of the lake has been formally annexed to the parcel of property. Now there's actually something on title for that. So that parcel, you'll see there's a pie between us and the person that wrote a support letter for us, the Jeffries. And along the water, there's also another parcel, and both of them have been formally annexed to that parcel of property by the courts. So.
Thank you.
Thank you for the clarification. Yeah, interesting scenario.
Okay, any other questions? So I'm looking for a mover to move the recommendation, member Boyko, and seconded by member Black, all in favor. That is carried. Thank you very much. We have the minutes of February the 25th, 2025 before us. Can I have someone move those, please? Member Henry and seconded by member Koulis, all in favor. That's carried. Thank you. And a motion to adjourn. Our next meeting is April 22nd. Member Henry and member Black, all in favor. That's carried. Thank you. The meeting is adjourned. Okay.
Yeah. How are you? Good, how are you? Good, now that's. Yeah. Are you on Still. Thank you very much. All of you.
Yeah. Good day. Good afternoon. This Township of Selwyn regular council meeting for March 25th, 2025 will come to order. We respectfully acknowledge that we are on the treaty and traditional territory of the Mississauga and Anishinaabe. We offer our gratitude to the First Peoples for their care for and teachings about our earth and our relations. May we honor those teachings. Please observe a moment of silence so the council, staff, and members of the public can quietly reflect on our duty to the community that we are trying to serve. Thank you. Members of the public, staff, presenters, and members of council, please be advised that meetings are broadcast and recorded and made available on the internet. I would also ask that all comments, questions, and answers be directed through me as the chair. This includes the public, staff, and council members. Is there any declaration of pecuniary interest or the general nature thereof? Seeing none, we will go to our minutes of March the 4th, 2025 and March the 11th, 2025. I hope everyone's read them and doesn't see any errors or omissions. If not, I'm looking for someone to move them. Councillor Henry, seconded by Councillor Koulis, all in favor. That's carried. Is there any discussion out of the minutes? Seeing none, we will go to our first deputation, Maxim Tandon. If you'd like to go to the podium, and he's going to talk about an update on the GPS trail mapping to improve accessibility. Welcome.
Through you, Chair, thank you.
Give me 1 second, it's gonna be loading.
No worries. This clicker, the middle button, advances it. Okay, great, thank you. Perfect, thank you. So welcome, everyone. My name is Maxim Tandon, and I'm working in conjunction with the Trent Community Research Center and my supervisor, Mary Koulis, to develop a trail accessibility improvement project.
You just want to aim forward. but-
He's doing with his eyes.
So I'll before I.
Okay, go for it, yeah. Yeah, yeah. So a little bit about me. I'm a fourth year Trent University student studying geography with an option in planning. I hope to graduate this spring. Everything's in line for that. I've kind of put a couple of photos up to explain a little bit about what I'm about. I'm a curler and a geographer. I love the outdoors, and this project is important to me because I believe everyone should be able to access the outdoors in an accessible way. Go for it. So let's talk about the project a little bit. The site that we're trying to revamp is the Ennismore Heritage Trail and Waterfront Park. So this is a park that exists on the shores of Chemong Lakes, and within the park there is a trail system of 3 trails that we're hopefully going to just amalgamate into one simplified trail. I'll show you guys maps later on that. But our objective is to improve the accessibility of these trails or of this trail through GPS mapping. This accessibility improvement is ideally targeted towards any, accessibility impairment, mobility issues, hearing, blindness, anything that would impair someone in accessing the outdoors. And this project started in January of this year, and it's projected to end in April. So I wanted to show you just a satellite view of the site. The first kind of red marker, this doesn't have a laser on it, does it?
Yeah, stop it, but-
This way.
Oh, right, okay. I don't know. I don't see it showing up. That's okay. The first red dot in the middle of the map, just next to number 18, is the office. That's where we are right now. And the red dot just above or to the left of the 20 is the actual site of the park. That's okay. That's totally fine. Okay, that's totally fine. And just for context, I've put, Lakefield up there. And the University Heights area is just south of the university. You can switch slide if you'd like. So to complete this project, we had to go through some initial steps, some research phase. So the first thing that I was tasked to do was to research the current and planned trail infrastructure in the township. And I did that. Mary had sent me a bunch of resources that I overviewed. There's the comprehensive plans, and I was able to derive what trail improvements exist and what is being planned. And I was also able to research accessible trail improvement strategies across Ontario, Canada, and beyond. So I found in a annotated bibliography that there's a lack of research in the field of trail accessibility improvement. There's some audit tools that are being made, but there is not that much research being done. And I found some holes, and it's okay. It's okay. And the third step that we went forward with was we met with Eric Thornley, who's part of the accessibility committee. And because he is blind, he was able to talk to us more in depth about how to develop a program that would help blind or low vision folks to be able to navigate the trails better. Go ahead. So the actual methods to undertake this project, first thing we did was we created a work plan and we outlined the scope of the project. This had to be agreed upon by Mary and I and my project coordinator at Trent, Shauna. And I gathered background information as detailed in the existing infrastructure documents and in existing trail improvement strategies across Ontario and Canada. And then we visited the trails 3 times in total. We did 2 visits to just kind of get some initial grounds on how we should actually undertake the project. We did do mapping each time, but the last time we did the mapping, it was most in depth. And so the mapping involved point plotting using a system called TerraFlex. It's a GPS software. And what we did was we took points of interest and we plotted them in our TerraFlex GPS. So some of the points of interest included the information plaques, which I'll have pictures of soon. Points of interest such as an osprey observation platform and a gazebo, what type of surface you're walking on. So if it's a boardwalk or if there's a little stream crossing. And there's also disc golf holes. I believe it's a 9-hole disc golf course. And other park infrastructure such as benches, commemorative trees, and play structure that are actually within the waterfront park, separate from the trails. So that was all done in TerraFlex, and then I went and mapped the actual trail routes using ArcGIS Field Maps. It's a software that tracks your location on your iPhone or your Samsung or whatever phone you may have, and actually sees where you're walking and records it in the software. 2 things that we have not done yet that we plan to do is to extract this data and convert it to a publicly accessible link, preferably on the Township's Selwyn website. And we're going to hopefully create an ArcGIS story map template for future students to be able to add on to. So I'm just going to show you some pictures here. So this is an example of an information plaque. There are numerous information plaques throughout the trails, and each one that we found, we marked the location on our TerraFlex GPS system. And we're hoping that it can be translated into a format that is auditory for low vision or blind folks to be able to get that same information. Next. This is Mary at a osprey observation stand. And so things like this have stairs, and they might be challenging for anyone who with mobility issues to get to, or blind or low vision folks to be able to know about. So we're plotting these to be able to figure out a better way to make them accessible. And this is our gazebo and a boardwalk on the right, gazebo on the left here. The gazebo is nice. It overlooks Chemong Lake, and there's kind of rumors of the foxes' activity around the gazebo. And it's a really beautiful place, and we're trying to just give people more information on what they're seeing in the trails, or if you're not seeing, then what you're actually walking on. And so we went in and mapped all of these points, and then a lot of the times the points went in conjunction with the trails, and the trails would go through them, and we'd map those as well. So some progress and challenges. I wanted to just show you the kind of two major data outputs we've had so far. So what you're seeing on my far left, so I'm assuming your far right, is the actual trail map right here. And so this is kind of a rough version right now, but if you've ever seen the official map of the Ennismore Heritage Trail, it looks quite different from this. And there's actually a trail that I didn't map that runs right through here that we're planning on making defunct, hopefully. It's a little bit more muddy and kind of wetland environment that wouldn't be that friendly to walkers. And there are some areas where the trail comes very close and does intersect. Here, and here. And on the right side, we have our points. So I'm just going to talk out loud here. We've got our disc golf area, our heritage trees, and then every other point is the entire trail system here. So information plaques, the gazebo is here, there's a secret garden here, and this is Ennis Road, and this is the entrance to the park up here. So some challenges we foresee or we've had is one, this study is being completed during the winter, and there's snow, and especially when we were walking, there was quite deep snow. So that actually changes how the trails might look on the map if you were to walk them in the summertime, where the terrain is different. The other challenge with the weather is that sometimes we aren't sure of what we're walking on. So things like boardwalks, we're more or less estimating where the boardwalk was starting and where it was ending. And also making these two maps one and just putting all the points and the maps into one accessible layer is something that we know is possible. We haven't done yet. So we're hoping that this can be used as a public navigation wayfinding aid for everyone, no matter the ability. We're hoping that it can be just a simple trail and points of interest map that everyone can use. And further, it can also hopefully be downloaded and imported into mobile apps, which help those with low vision or blind folks to be able to navigate trails. Some examples of apps via ERIC have been Voice Vista or Lodestone. These apps use GPS software to be able to actually navigate you audibly through the trails. The story map is an ArcGIS software that I'm to create, and it's to be continued by future co-op students, including elements such as the history of the trails, park, and area. We're trying to be able to include the local Indigenous history, the modern history, history about the Kawartha Lakes Conservation Authority, because that was the authority that previously had governance over the trails. And information on flora and fauna. There's significant sumac there that might be tied to the history. And we're hoping to include kind of pictures and maps of the trails in all seasons, and work closely with Peterborough County to provide an accessible format for all of these things through the story map and the actual trail map. Thank you guys for listening, and hope that was informative.
Thank you very much. It was an excellent presentation for your first, so kudos to you. And I want to thank Councillor Koulis, because I would imagine this was your idea of going forward with this being on the accessibility committee. And it's something that I think will be unique and really needed for our accessibility challenged people. So thank you. Yes.
Through you, I'll just clarify. So Eric, who Maxim had chatted with about the different options that we could move forward with. It was his idea 100%, and I jumped on it.
All right. All right. So anyway, regardless, you're working well together. I appreciate that. And I will now open it up to questions. Councillor Henry.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Sennis. Thank you for your presentation and the work that you're doing within our community to promote accessibility. Long-term thinking, I'd like that you're going to have students, co-op students down the road be working on this project. Having worked in post-secondary and still currently do the changes that are coming from the province and the feds regarding post-secondary education, my concerns would be how will we be able to support this long-term?
Through you, Chair, I hope to direct this question to Mary.
Councillor Coolus.
Through you. Yeah, so this is the first time we're doing it. I've actually just put in another, an updated placement for the next students. We're hoping it's actually going to be maybe a year that we can actually fully complete the process, has everything in. So long-term for one trail, about 1 year, and then we're hoping to expand it to other trails depending on how it goes. Financially, there's no compensation between anybody here. I think, the value and the reward is knowledge and experience and networking, to say the least for there. But long-term, I mean, I've actually chatted with Trent looking at their budget and they're doing way better than most universities. And the Trent School of Environment is actually expanding. So that's the good outlook. And we have access to their resources, the library, the GIS systems. Maxim might be able to speak to that too. But.
Yeah, if I may speak to that, Trent is the headquarters of a community called MADGIC, and it's the MAPS Government Data Information Center, and it's headquartered in the 3rd floor of the Bata Library. And it's, sorry, not the headquarters, but it's just a outpost of information that is accessible to all students, and especially promoted to those who are studying geography or any type of environmental study. And that's who I came to be able to figure out the ownership rights around story maps and how to use field maps. And it was very helpful. And I know a lot of Trent students who are using those resources.
And follow up.
Follow up through you. Thank you. Very good to know. Also, have we reached out to our other trail systems and their stewardship groups? And is this something that we could expand throughout the township?
Might be a question for staff.
There has been no outreach as part of this particular project, but for sure we see that this process can be replicated for our other trails in cooperation with Trent. They're very keen on continuing the partnership if the resources are there.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Black.
Thank you, through Mayor Sennis. Yeah, thanks for the presentation, Maxim. I think this is the start of a great story, I think, for the municipality. Thank Mary and Trent University for putting the effort into it, and yourself for sure. But as we move forward in our new economic development department in the county, trails are one of the key things that bring people to this community. So I think having mapping, all of these, signage, QR codes that create, some of the information that you might need on a trail, all of those things are very attractive, and it helps to bring those trail systems together under one application or something like that. So this is a great start. The GPSing part of it is a great start. Obviously the signage and all those other pieces are other very important pieces to the puzzle. So thank you again for starting us.
Yeah.
But I think this could become a much bigger a project for the municipality and the county to attract more visitors if they have those tools in their hand to navigate some of these trail systems. I'm not a very good navigator. I got lost in the Ennismore Trail trying to find the secret garden when that opened. I got very much lost because it's a lot of planted pine trees. So to see where the actual line was, anyways, we did finally get there. But the GPSing piece is really a good start to it. Thanks for your presentation.
Thank you. Mike.
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor. To add to the answer for Councillor Henry, at our last trail committee for Lakefield, I have a cell one update every time. And one of the cell one updates was this project, and they were very excited about the idea because although it's far more linear, they still have a number of people who have low to no vision. And the possibility was very exciting for them because it would just open a world up for a group that unfortunately probably doesn't have access right now, even though it is quite linear.
Thank you very much. If there are no other questions, I like the idea that Selwyn's again a leader and it's on a project that I think is very important to people that do have accessibility problems. So I thank you both again. Is there someone who would like to move this recommendation? Councillor Henry, seconded by Councillor Boyko, all in favor, that's carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's not 1:30 yet, so we'll jump to the question period. Madam Clerk, were there any questions that have come forward?
No questions.
Thank you very much. We have 10 minutes. Maybe we can move on to the Woodland Acres Water and Sewer Budget of 2025. Mr. Van.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, we'll report before council for our budget for 2025. Adam and I worked on this as a joint project. Just a few comments from me. Of course, this is for the Woodland Acres specific service area. This reflects our first full year of operation for the Lakefield Water and Sewer staff taking care of that. As outlined here, that how we've set it up, they provide operational oversight of the area, and then we take care of that through an interdepartmental chargeback. If there is any direct operational expenses that would be incurred, for instance, a water main break, sewer blockage, something like that, we would charge those specifically to the department. A little bit of history there, and this was back in 2022, the capital charges ceased in this area. So we had a significant capital charge for that area to upgrade. In that year, there was a reduction of user charges of a little over $360. So that charge came off. In 2023, we did have a 2% increase, about $24. Last year, because it was a transition year, we had pledged to council that we wouldn't recommend any changes. And so there was no change last year. And this year, we're proposing once again a nominal 2% increase, which is, as outlined in the report, a little over $25 a year, just a little over $2 a month. And we have no capital projects planned for this year in the area, but Alex and Adam are taking a look at potential sewer main replacements in the area because some of the areas they're getting a little bit older. In the older area of Woodland Acres, we have did some cement mortar relining of the water mains, but there's definitely going to be some work, I think, in future years. But I don't know if I had anything else to add. If not, deal with any council questions.
Are there any questions for Lane or Adam? Deputy Mayor Black.
Yeah, thank you through you, Mayor. Just one of the lines is accumulated revenue. That's just your cash. Because you use that to balance out as well at the end of the year. 168,000 this year, 172 next year. That's all that is, right? It's just.
That's correct. To you, Madam Mayor,
Okay.
that is correct. Yeah.
Yeah, just want to make sure I understood it. Thanks.
Any other questions for Lane? Seeing none, we have a recommendation before us to receive the information and adopt the budget compliance report. It's moved by Deputy Mayor Black and seconded by Councillor Henry. All in favor, that is carried. Thank you very much. I'm going to skip the Lakefield Ward Police Services contract for a moment if I can have the pleasure of council because it might take a little longer to talk about. So we'll move on to the stock pumper apparatus purchase, and Howard Jinkerson, you've got the floor.
Through you, Madam Mayor. As you can see, the report from the fire department regarding a stock pumper purchase. We're looking to make a purchase through Canoe. We've done quite a bit of research. Will help us with reduction, so it'll save us some money in the budget. And it'll actually, we'll actually be able to take delivery of a pumper in 2025. So the difference is right now, if you were to try and order a pumper and have one custom built, they're looking over 2 years and possibly longer, and then with a lot of variables in the cost of what it might be to build. So that was kind of what brought this on.
Okay, and I like the idea that it's a Canadian company that we're dealing with.
Yes.
Kudos. Any questions? Deputy Mayor Black.
Thank you. Through Mayor. So is there any difference really in the vehicles other than the 4 seats and the ability to have the scuba and all that stuff in the cab?
Yes, there actually will be on this particular unit. It won't have the ability to dump the water out of the back. It won't have a dump valve. But in trying to make the move towards a rescue pumper, that is generally where the tools would go anyway, the extrication equipment. We have done a little bit of testing, and it will add about 35 to 45 seconds to have to pump off if we had to pump into a porta tank. So that's kind of a give and take that we've been able to do with this. Just with the stock pumper, the cabinet size is what it is, like it is a built apparatus, so we don't have that customization that we normally would have. So, but it won't look like any of the pumpers we have right now. It'll be quite different. We'll actually end up with quite a bit more cabinet space because the SCBA is going into the cab. And I think that it's going to work out well.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Can I have someone please move the recommendation that's before us? Councillor Henry and Councillor Koulis, all in favor. That is carried. Thank you very much. We have 3 minutes left. Can we move on to the tender specific model pickup trucks? Adam.
Through you, Madam Mayor, as you'll see in the report, it's a joint report from Public Works, Fire and Parks and Rec for council approval to issue a tender specific or vehicles make specific tender. We have 4 pickup trucks we're looking to procure this year. We're looking to issue a tender for GM or Chevrolet products. We've issued a similar tender in 2024 for some water sewer vehicles, and back in 2023, Fire and Public Works issued a similar tender as well for GM and Chevrolet. So with that, we'd like your approval to issue that tender, and then we'll bring the results back to council for approval.
Right, thank you. Are there any questions for Adam? Deputy Mayor Black.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. How will the trade-ins work? I know a lot of your stuff is done through that auction center. Will they be traded into, will this be a local dealer typically, or are you going through a larger distribution network for this?
We do issue the tender on the website, and we also do distribute that to local dealerships as well that we've dealt with in the past, just to make sure they're aware of that.
Yeah.
As far as the existing inventory, the Public Works vehicle will stay in the fleet. And Parks and Rec. There was discussion where
the Mayor, car 3 is it's quite old. So there was some discussion if it was useful for the municipality, they would look at that. If not, it would probably, I assume, end up on Gov Deals.
Okay.
Yeah, we have had quite a bit of success with Gov Deals. We just sold a couple pieces of equipment through Public Works and quite successful with it. We've got good value.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? I would like to have someone move the recommendation that's before us. Deputy Mayor Black, Councillor Koulis, all in favor. That is carried. All right, we have 1 minute to go, so take a breath. And we will move into our public meeting. Right, it's 1:30 and we have Peter Simcisco from Watson and Associates with us. And if the planner can please announce the purpose of our meeting. Maybe it's. No? What happened to him?
Yeah, so this really isn't a planning application. It's for the development charges bylaw.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we do have Peter Simcisco here from
Oh,
Watson.
okay.
They did do the background study for council that you received back in February, I believe.
Yes.
So Peter will do a little presentation and then this is the opportunity. It has been advertised on our website for folks who might have an interest to ask some questions or make some presentations.
And do we have anybody that's online today to ask those questions just for?
No, I do not.
information?
No, we have
All right.
nobody.
All right,
in
so
attendance.
sorry, Peter, please proceed.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for having me again. I'm just going to share my screen here with the presentation and then we can get started. And I believe that should be up on the screen now. Perfect. So in terms of the purpose of the public meeting, this is one of the statutory requirements under the Development Charges Act when a municipality is considering either passage of a new development charge bylaw or making amendments to an existing development charge bylaw. And given that the township is currently considering some amendments to its existing development charge bylaws, we do have to undertake this public meeting. In addition to the public meeting, a formal background study has to be prepared, which, as mentioned earlier, has been published on the township's website back in February. And then we have to undertake this public meeting, following which council can consider adoption of the new amending development charge bylaws. And so I'll provide a very brief presentation this afternoon covering the scope of the proposed amendment. And then we'll provide an opportunity for the public to provide comments. So council, just for a little bit of background and context, council approved a new set of development charge bylaws back in August of 2023. Since those bylaws came into effect, there have been some changes to the Development Charges Act, as well as some implementation issues have come up around the treatment of park model trailers for the purpose of development charges and imposing those. We did previously present information on the proposed amendments to deal with these items back on February 11th. And again, the purpose of today's public meeting is to go over those proposed changes again, and then to provide the public with an opportunity to comment on the proposed amendment. I would note here that the scope of the amendment is entirely administrative or policy driven. There are no changes to the actual development charge rates that are being proposed through the amendment. So in terms of the legislative changes, Bill 185, or what is the Cutting Red Tape to Build More Homes Act, came into force in mid-2024. And that piece of legislation made several changes to the Development Charges Act, which are listed on the third slide here. A couple of these, the first two specifically, were already addressed last year in 2024 with the removal of the required phase-in to the new rates, as well as adding studies back into the scope of the township's development charge bylaws. And those changes came into effect via amending bylaws that were passed at that point in time. With the update study that is currently in front of council and the subject of this public meeting, we are addressing the third bullet on the slide here, which is a more technical item, and that's a reduction of the development charge freeze period from 2 years down to 18 months, again, to align those provisions of the bylaws with the Development Charges Act as amended. The other item that the update study and the proposed amending bylaws are seeking to address is the way that park model trailers are treated when it comes to applying development charges. Based on the definitions within the township's current development charge bylaws, these park model trailers would be charged development charges at the rates that are applicable to single and semi-detached homes. However, recognizing that these park model trailer units typically have lower occupancy levels than single detached and semi-detached dwellings, and more similar to perhaps small apartment units, What's being proposed is to amend or make some technical changes within the bylaws to ensure that these park model trailer units would be charged at the rates applicable to small apartment units. And so that requires the addition of a definition for park model trailers, adding some wording into the bylaws specifying that those types of units will be charged based on the development charge rates that are applicable to the 1-bedroom and bachelor apartment units, and then also making some technical changes within the credits section of the bylaws to reflect these changes that are being proposed. So in terms of the definition for park model trailers, what's proposed within the amending bylaws is shown on slide 5 here. The definition that was formulated and as presented here was informed by reviewing other development charge bylaws for municipalities that have a dedicated charge or a special charge for these types of units, as well as further informed through discussions with the township's staff. So that summarizes the changes that are being proposed. Just to touch quickly here on the next steps. Once we conclude the presentation, there will be an opportunity for the public to provide comments on the proposed amendments. Subsequent to that, council will need to determine whether any further revisions are required to either the development charge update study or the proposed amending bylaws. And then we are expecting on April 22nd for council to consider approval of the development charge update study as well as the amending bylaws. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Peter. Are there any questions for Peter? Deputy Mayor Black.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Thanks for the presentation, Peter. A couple of quick questions. In the definition of park trailers, and I brought this up the last time, how does this differentiate between one of these long trailers that people move around, the ones typically we see in the Lakefield campground? How does it differentiate between what is considered a park model trailer versus any other type of trailer on wheels in a frame?
Thank you for the question. So the differentiating factor is that these park model trailers that are subject to the payment of development charges are ones that require a building permit. Because they are expected to be stationary for a period of time. And so if there is a building permit required for one of these units, that is the trigger for the payment of development charges.
Follow up. So I don't see that in the definition anywhere that it's subject to a building permit. Can you respond to that?
Right, and the reason that's not captured within the definition is because the development charges only get triggered if there is a building permit that's required in the first place. And so if there is a building permit required, township staff are then looking at what is the appropriate rate to apply to that type of dwelling unit. And so if a building permit for a park model trailer is required, that prompts the calculation of a development charge. And so the definition within the bylaw just allows us to ensure that these units are charged at the rate that's applicable to apartment units rather than at the rate that's applicable to single and semi-detached dwellings.
I have a comment from Mr. Kelly.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Through you, Mayor Senes, park model trailers are specifically regulated through the Ontario Building Code. They are a building. Travel trailers are regulated through the Ministry of Transportation. They receive license plates. They are a trailer or regulated as vehicles essentially. In addition to that, the definition of construct embedded in the Building Code Act. That definition includes the relocation of prefabricated buildings or site assembled buildings. So park model trailers are buildings, require building permits.
So they're not a licensed vehicle?
They're not a licensed vehicle. That would be the distinguishing difference there.
So should that be, sorry, through you, Mayor, should that be in the definition somehow, recognizing that, or is that within the bylaw already identified in the bylaw?
Through you, Mayor Senes, I'm not aware of too many locations where we prescribe through bylaw what requires building permits or not. That's contained within the regulations and the act for the provincial regulations. That is the Building Code Act and Ontario Building Code.
All right, thank you very much. Are there any other questions, Peter?
I have another one if nobody else does.
All right, go ahead.
Thank you, through Mayor. Second one was really why don't we have a separate development charge for them instead of referring to them being equivalent to a bachelor or one-bedroom apartment, which is a multi-residential building? Why wouldn't we have a separate development charge just for this park model trailer?
There's certainly could be. I think when we did a review of kind of best practice, looking at other municipalities that have these types of units explicitly treated uniquely in their development charge bylaws, there are some municipalities that have a charge that's specific to park model trailers. Typically, that charge is equivalent to the charge that would be applicable to an apartment unit. So I think mechanically that it works the same whether we have a charge that's unique to park model trailers, that's just the same charge as that the one that applies to apartment units, versus just through definitions or through notes within the bylaw indicating that these park model trailers would be charged at the rates applicable to apartment units. So it could be done either way. We do see examples of municipal bylaws that have a specific rate for park model trailers and identified as a category of development. But again, even in those instances, the charge is, even though it's shown as a separate type of development, the charge that's applicable is the same as the charge applicable to a small apartment unit.
Well, yeah, I get the square footage relationship clearly. I just don't see the relationship between multi-residential living space versus a separate building outside, but that's fine. If it works, that's fine. Thank you.
Are there any other questions for Peter? Can I have someone please move to receive his report? Councillor Koulis and Councillor Henry, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. And we will now go to Wayne Vance, our Manager of Financial Services.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, so first of all, thanks for Peter and Matt at Watson for putting this together. We worked with Watson for a long time on development charge matters, and they're a trusted resource and colleagues on this matter. And also thanks to Janice for the work that she completed and support from Robert. The recommendation really just capsulizes Peter's presentation and says to council that we will take feedback during the public comment period, and then you'll see a final report back on April 22nd.
Right, thank you. Any questions for Lane? Pretty straightforward. Can I have someone move that, please? Councillor Pico and Deputy Mayor Black seconding, all in favor. That is carried. Thank you. We'll now move on to Janice LaValle. He's going to be talking about the Lakefield Ward Police Services contract.
Thank you, Mayor Senes. Yes, I'm sure everybody's had an opportunity to review the report, but I will just go over it briefly. So I think council is aware that the term for the contract for the Lakefield Ward Police Service does come to a close at the end of this year. The agreement does provide that the term can be extended upon mutual agreement of the parties. And of course, there's three parties involved. It's the City of Peterborough, the Peterborough Community Police Service, and the Township. Section 18 of the agreement provides for the termination provisions. It requires 1 year's notice and says that any party can terminate at December 31st of any year, giving 1 year's notice. So effectively, where we're at this point in time, we would have to give notice by the end of 2025. That 1 year would be 2026 with a transition date of January 1st, 2027, if that agreement was not to be renewed. So this agreement has been in place for over 10 years now. That came to be when there was a de-amalgamation of the Peterborough Lakefield Community Police Service back in 2014. And certainly we do know the cost for police services in the village are higher than the costs in the rural areas. But certainly through the de-amalgamation process, there were cost savings found. The village ratepayers do not have as high a cost as what they used to. So that, that worked out well. The level of service is the same, and I think residents and businesses do appear to be satisfied with the service. We don't hear a lot of concerns around the service. We don't hear concerns about the cost. So I think overall it's been a very successful partnership. And certainly we have grown over the years a fairly significant reserve so that if there are any extraordinary expenses that we have monies in place to help cover off those costs. So council's had a brief discussion about this a couple of times. I think both meetings in February, the budget meeting and the February 11th meeting, and did express some interest in understanding what options are available to it in terms of making its decision to move forward. So just briefly, I've provided a bit of information here for you about 3 different options. So certainly option 1 would be just to enter discussions with the city and the Peterborough Community Police Service to negotiate an extended contract. In some communications with the police service, I think they definitely would be supportive of that approach. Option number 2, if the council wished to look for a costing from both the Peterborough Community Police Service and the Municipal Policing Bureau of the OPP, that would be an option as well. Those costings would have to be formally requested. I think you'd have to go through a process of developing what level of again, confirming your level of service and documenting that so that both services could use that to establish their costings. Given the strong history of the police service in the village, if you were considering a change within the village ward, I do think it would be important to have some public engagement on that. Again, there's a lot of connection to the police service. The community does seem happy. So I do think you would want to have that step if you chose that option. And certainly when municipalities are undergoing these types of processes with costings from more than one police service, it's common for them to engage a third party with some expertise in that area to help with the facilitation and the evaluation of any proposals, just to make sure that you're comparing apples to apples and not apples to oranges. And then, of course, option number 3, council did talk about looking at police services across the wards. So if you wanted to do that, then again, it's very similar to option 2. You would have to develop whatever your service level requirements were for the different wards and request the costings from the 2 police services. In this case, the city would be in position to say, yes, they would provide that costing, or no, they wouldn't. The last time we did go through this process, we were informed at the outset that communications could indeed be a significant change for the Peterborough Community Police Service to try and provide service to a geographic area such as Selwyn. So I think the first step there would probably be to determine what that would look like, what those costs would be, and if they were really interested in even providing that costing, they would have the choice. I did provide a bit of a recommended process that if that's the road you wanted to go down, I think those are the steps that you'd have to go through. I won't repeat those here. I think certainly making a decision to go down this road is certainly a significant one. There's a lot of resources that would be required from everybody, the police services, council, staff, and the public. I think there's really a lot of information and consultation that would have to go on. And at the end of the day, you want to make sure that your decision is the right one, and you're kind of comparing apples to apples. And I think council would need to be prepared to make a change if they're going to go down this process and the goal is simply cost savings. I think you somewhat need to be prepared to make a change if that's what the proposals dictate. Again, I would just repeat that I think the community, all wards are satisfied with their police services. We don't hear concerns from the service level or cost perspective. Certainly, we did go through our strategic planning exercise in 2024, and there was lots of public engagement and feedback through that process. And this didn't roll to the top at all. It really wasn't even mentioned as something that is on the minds of our community. So, and oftentimes with matters like this, it is important for us to consider that and take our lead from what we're hearing from the community. So with that, I will just leave it for your questions and happy to try and answer whatever you have.
Okay, before I go to my colleagues, I think this has come up as a result of an off-the-cuff comment that was made by a councillor. And so that's the reason for giving all these options to us today as to a direction we could go. But and it's nice that we have the options. Not every township has an option of which police service they can use. But as the mayor, I have not received, and when I was deputy mayor and a councillor, I didn't get complaints about the service or either of our wards, whether it be Smith, Ennismore, or for Lakefield. I haven't had calls of complaints, so I really personally don't see a reason to entertain a change to the status quo. And although we could check it out and get quotes from both police services, it would be done at a cost not only of coming out of reserves, but it would also be a cost for the time taken by staff to go through this and council, because we'd have to have public meetings. It would probably create angst for our residents to go through this process, because at this point in time, everybody seems to be think it's hunky-dory. So I think also too, if we were to go through this process, the major shift would occur during election year. I don't recommend it. Anyway, we do have options if it becomes necessary, but for now, I support option 1 and Councillor Henry.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Senes. I believe I'm that off the cuff counselor.
Could be.
My reputation precedes me. We'll leave that for another day. Thank you for doing and taking the time to do this report for us, Janice and staff. Both the OPP and Peterborough Police Services have provided more than adequate service for our community, with many historical footnotes within our amalgamated communities. I too, as the mayor said, have not heard any complaints about OPP services throughout Smith and Ennismore and throughout the county in general. Complaints against OPP are very, very low. But in our immediate community, the rural areas, I'm not sure how well they're going to adjust to having Peterborough Police Services responding compared to the OPP. Just Smith does have its highly populated areas that aren't so rural, more urbanized. However, for the most part, we are relatively rural. I'm not sure having Peterborough Police rolling through will have the impact and the positive service that we've been receiving so far with the OPP. And in no way does that mean anything against the Peterborough Police. It's just the mindset of rural people and how we like things to be dealt with, especially if it's got historical references. I too am going to say that I'm not going to be in favor of supporting the $40,000 to $50,000 in consulting fees. However, if council does choose to move forward in that direction, I would request that we use the current home of the OPP in Bridgenorth to house our newly awarded contracted police services, if we get that far to begin with. And we can rest assured that our contract with Peterborough Police Services, if for whatever reason became redundant, we would end up being policed by the OPP regardless. So there's no concern that we wouldn't have policing, but that's all I've got off the cuff.
Thank you very much. Councillor Boyko.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Senes. Yeah, the only complaints or questions I get regarding policing matters are not complaints about the police, but about traffic or about speeding. They're about the only complaints that I hear. And because I am the liaison, the Lakefield liaison on the police board, Peterborough Police Board, I bring those forward at police board meetings that I attend every month, and they're dealt with quickly and efficiently. And I am always pleased with, impressed with the way that, and it's not respect for me personally, it's respect for Lakefield and for Selwyn Township that I see at that table. And so I'm impressed with our, well, he's relatively new, 2 years old, Chief Betts, who is a fine man that I have a lot of respect for. And I like the changes that he is bringing about to make the Peterborough Police even better than it has been in the past. So when I read this report, and thank you very much for the report through you, Mayor Senes, to Janice, I think the report is complete, and I think it looks at each of the options in a tremendous way by showing us the pros and cons of each option. So when I thought about all of the ways in which we in Lakefield have been served by the Peterborough Police, and then I looked carefully at the options that Janice wrote in this excellent report, I too am going to support the recommendation that we carry on with the negotiations for an extension of the Peterborough Police contract. Thank you.
You move that?
I'll move it.
Deputy Mayor Blunt.
Thank you, through Mayor. I will second it. I will support the motion. But I have some questions as well about the process. Would there have been a cost to get out of the current contract? I know the last time it was quite an issue, when it was Peterborough Lakefield Police Services, but this is strictly a contract. So is there any cost to get out of the contract if that was the decision of council?
Through you, Madam Mayor, no, they're very different circumstances. As long as we were to abide by the termination provisions in the agreement.
Yeah.
When the de-amalgamation happened, it was just that. It wasn't an agreement. It was two police services who had amalgamated themselves. So it's like a divorce.
Yeah.
And everybody pays a little bit in a divorce, or well, we didn't pay, we received, but anyway.
Yeah.
There's a balancing act in a divorce. There wouldn't be such a similar thing with the contract. We would just have to follow the termination provisions.
Yeah, well, I'm pleased it's not in the contract. That's what the public needs to know, that it's not in the contract, because it was quite controversial last time. Once the negotiation, if it passes through council, once the negotiation with the city is completed, will it come back to council for approval, the contract?
Yes, absolutely. Council will approve it. Yeah.
Thank you. And just one last follow-up, if I may, Mayor. The only concern I have about the contract situation is the governance issues that it provides, where we don't have a vote on the police board, or we're not entitled to go to in-camera meetings, where a lot of key issues are discussed. Is there an opportunity within that negotiation to have our council have a member on the full board? I don't know if that was discussed when the contract was renewed the last time, but to me, that's an issue. We have no say, really. We're no different than the public sitting at the table, essentially able to ask questions, but really not vote on anything. I know we're not a significant part of that police contract, clearly, but that's the only concern I have about the contract situation, is the governance issue.
Through you, Madam Mayor, that was thoroughly discussed at the time of the de-amalgamation, and there was no movement on that at that point in time. We can always ask. I would suggest that the answer is going to be no. They have a contract with Cabin Monaghan as well, and they have the same. They have an advisor who sits and is able to listen and provide feedback, but nothing beyond that. And if you think really through our arrangement with the OPP, it's really no different. We don't have any decision-making power over the budget. We don't have any decision-making power over how the service is provided. They have to meet the adequacy standards, as all police services do. Do we pay the bill? Yes, we do. It's based on the billing model that's approved by the province. We really don't have any impact on that. We do have the detachment board. There's a very limited scope of items that the detachment board can have some impact on, but again, it's not related to budget. It's not related to how the service is delivered to meet adequacy standards.
Well, yeah, no, just I do want to thank staff for the recommendation and the report. It's giving council a chance to talk about it and have it open an open discussion through the public. So I really appreciate that opportunity, sorry, as well. Thank you.
All right, so we had Councilor Coles, did you want to speak to it?
Through you, I do have it's random. I'm thinking of the ripple effects of if we did open this up. I drive by in Bridgenorth every day, and there's a sign that says volunteer OPP on duty for that location. And I'm wondering what the ripple effects would be for other community organizations or volunteers in the community, like how this may affect them if we open up this discussion.
Yeah, for sure. So if council did choose to go down the road of seeking costings, and a decision was made to have Peterborough Community Police service the whole township, then I'm not sure that they would want to maintain that office that's in Bridgenorth. That would definitely be a decision point. So it could for sure have an impact on that if that was the way council was going. It doesn't sound like that's the way council is feeling, but
thank you.
All right, so we have a motion to support the recommendation before us, which was option one, by Councillor Boyko, seconded by Deputy Mayor Black, all in favor. That is carried. Thank you very much. Consent items. Does anyone want anything pulled? Seeing none, can I have someone move the consent items before us? Councillor Henry, seconded by Deputy Mayor Black, all in favor. That's carried. Thank you. Under other new and unfinished business, we have a special council meeting. Madam Clerk.
Yes, this is for the asset management plan. I did circulate the date to council, so we just need a resolution to formally adopt the meeting.
Right, can I have someone move that? Deputy Mayor Black, seconded by Councillor Boyko, all in favor. That is carried. Thank you very much. Confirming bylaw. Councillor Koulis and Councillor Henry, all in favor. That is carried. And adjournment. Councillor Henry and Deputy Mayor Black, all in favor. It's carried. Thank you. Have a great afternoon.